or so is occupied by sea otters or has been occupied by sea otters. The one exception that we know of is Puget Sound. And of course, we don't know, if they will occur in the future, but the archaeological records suggest that sea otters weren't here over the past 10,000 years. Really? Yeah, I'm dumbfounded. I just don't understand why. I think the habitat is suitable. The prey populations are suitable. And I just don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't occur here. They occur in all other habitats, places like San Francisco Bay, where they did. The harvest records had large numbers of animals came out. Southeast Alaska, British Columbia, the Inside Passage, Prince William Sound, all of them kind of similar, protected nearshore waters, had sea otters in it, but nobody's been able to answer the question of why they didn't occur in Puget Sound.
So, my place out here on Priest Point, I've seen otters, and I assume they're river otters. Is there a competition factor?
No.
No?
Well,
because they stick to the sea, and the river otters just kind of come out in the bay now and then, right?
They cohabitate in Southeast and British Columbia and everywhere that we know sea otters occur. Almost everywhere, river otters occur as well. So,
do the places where like seals occur, do sea otters usually appear there as well?
They do. Yeah. Yeah. They, even though they occupy different kind of food webs, the harbor seals in particular are eating, most of the seals, almost all of pinnipeds in fact, with the exception of the walrus, occupy a forage fish food web. And sea otters are fairly unique in that they occupy that benthic invertebrate food web. But you'll occasionally see them hauled out together with the harbor seals. So there doesn't appear to be any kind of competitive interaction between sea otters.
So is there any kind of ongoing hypothesis as to why otters have chosen Puget Sound as a habitat?
Well, so we moved sea otters to the Olympic coast out of a push in 1970, and the population has grown. It's now about 1,800, and it extends from just south of Destruction Island into Nia Bay, and so they're kind of moving, into the straits, and they're also moving down from Barkley Sound. They're now in Barkley Sound, and there are occasional sightings of them south of Barkley Sound. So they're kind of moving this way, but it's a pretty slow process, especially when the growth rates are reduced. And again, back to that issue of that small home range and that high fidelity to that home range and to their other sea otters. They don't move a great deal. There's you guys might have heard in the past couple of years, I think a couple of sea otters have been captured in down around Olympia. I think I said Tacoma. I think it was Olympia. So obviously they can. There's not a barrier.
So it could just be something as simple as affinity to historical arrangements?
Currently, but historically, I don't know that why they wouldn't have been more abundant and showed up because humans used sea otters as long as they kind of coexisted, which hasn't been happening. Yeah, well, there are. I mean, right, killer whales. I don't know. I know that I assume that transient killer whales occur in Puget Sound. Yeah, they did. And so, whether or not they might have, had the same influence in Puget Sound that they are now having in the Aleutians, but they would have had to have had it over millennia time scales. And
on the, are there any patterns emerging from the data you've got along that big spatial gradient over that whole landscape?
Yeah, no, not yet. So we just finished the data collection, or we're just finishing the data collection. We have a few more fish to sample from the Monterey Peninsula and that'll be about the last of our samples. Right now I have a deadline. All of the scientists have to have their data to me, or to our statistician, end of June, or the beginning of June. So really I don't have any preliminary data, other than the things like the productivity. I've seen most of the ocean productivity data, and I've seen all of the health data from the vet evaluations.
So it's too early to try.
It's too early to draw any conclusions about kind of the relative importance of these different factors.
Are there any patterns in those condition factors in the animal?
I haven't looked at them by sight. Mike Murray, the veterinarian, said that he sees some pretty strong patterns. But I'm kind of trying to hold back. I want to see the analysis. Yeah.
Are there any other bodies of water similar to Puget Sound that you can kind of compare it to, like within the Salish Sea, like the Strait of Georgia, have there been sea otters in the Strait of Georgia but not in Puget Sound?
Yeah. I don't know exactly where the boundary is, but I did hear. I read some recent data. This is just kind of papers that they're in press right now, or they came out in the past year. And I don't know exactly where that boundary was. They did not occur in the Salish Sea, but somewhere in the Straits, and I don't know exactly where it was. At the northern part of the Straits, the sea otters did occur, but were evident in the archaeological remains, in the midden sites. But similar areas, no, there's no place else that we know about that sea otters have not occurred in similar type of habitats.
That native lore doesn't illuminate that?
That's something I need to look into. I just read a book called The Sea Otter Chiefs. It was about the role that sea otters played in the structure of I'm going to mispronounce these, but the Newchatlet and the Tishman, and there was another one.
Simshan?
Who?
Simshan?
No, it was the Haida Gwaii, the Queen Charlotte. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I'm sorry, I forgot what the question was.
Whether they show up in the lore.
Native historical references.
Yeah, and they have, there's a very rich history of the role of sea otters in those cultures, certainly during the fur trade, because it was, by the time that the trade got down to what they call the North Coast, which was this area, the tribal people were basically hunting and then stockpiling the pelts and then trading, for goods as the Europeans and Spanish and Russian traders would come in. So, but they did have strong records in those same archaeological sites of the presence of sea otters, and you see them in their totems. And I don't know about the tribal peoples of Puget Sound.
They were all about the salmon, right? That's probably
Right. But it'd be interesting. I suspect that there must be something. If they were a significant part of the culture, they would show up in that history. Yeah.
I worked in the wastewater end of water quality for many years, and of course, in regulatory sense, big emphasis on point source dischargers and TMDLs, driving controls on nutrient loads and waste load allocations for point source dischargers, that whole thing. In terms of the watershed impacts, is there any relative sense on impacts on population and the growth or lack thereof from nutrient loadings and those kinds of things versus other pollutant sources? Stormwater runoff, obviously a huge problem in Puget Sound. Various other contaminants, whether it's auto transportation based or herbicide, pesticide, agricultural based. Not near as much emphasis on non-point sources, but is there any relative sense of impact from?
Yeah, no, not much at this point. So the watershed analysis is being done at the University of Michigan, and You know, they haven't. They've given me some preliminary data from 3 of the sites, from Big Sur and Katmai and Prince William Sound. It's maybe it's telling, but most of the sea otter populations occur in relatively, unimpacted places.
Right.
And so we really don't have a good,
Right.
we can't go sample sea otters in LA Harbor.
Because Puget Sound's been impacted also for quite a long time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And of course, we don't have any sea otters to sample here.
Yeah.
So let's take one more question from Billy or
Ralph.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the incredible increase of sushi bars has diminished the urchin population.
I don't think so. One of the things that humans, in fact, I can remember is right after when I finished my my bachelor's degree, I had an opportunity to go work on an urchin dive boat in Southern California, and right before I was about to decide whether or not to do that, I had another offer to go out and smash urchins with a hammer, because people understood that these urchins were grazing kelps and were denuding kelp forests. I thought it was a bit ironic. I could go out and kill urchins, or I could go and trade them for money. But I didn't do either. But that fishery is probably one that is sustainable, because urchins have a really high reproductive rate and potential, and it's fairly easy to manage those harvests. And I think they've done a pretty good job of
That
managing.
makes me feel better. More of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I wanted to thank Jim for coming to present all the data that you shared with us. And we have our next policy cafe on May 1st. It's going to be about the impacts of vessel noise on orca whale communication. Scientists are here, and I know she's bringing whale sounds, and so that'll be a lot of fun to hear. And we also have some optional surveys. If you have suggestions on how we can improve these events or what you'd like to see in the future, we'd love to hear from you. So thanks everybody for coming so much.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Dave.